So, Unrivaled is a basketball league. We all kind of know that. It is a basketball league that is, if we're being completely real, in competition with the WNBA. Why? Because it is the only league where there are people in the league saying, we're okay, we don't need the WNBA. Like, you might be saying, oh, what about Project B as well? Project B players are not coming out and saying, we don't need the WNBA, we got Project B. And this is one of those things where, this is where the conflict of interest comment becomes very, very important. Because if we're being real here, there is a massive conflict of interest. There is a massive, massive, massive conflict of interest between Unrivaled and the WNBA, because Unrivaled is down massively. It is down massively. Like, it is down 24% if you are looking at their average on TNT and True TV, and these are games that are being shown on both networks. So games, as far as I'm aware, no games were shown on both networks last year. I could be wrong with that, but I could have swore last year it was games were either on TNT or True TV. But them being on both, they are still down 24%, which is not good. Even down 24% is not good. In general, most of the number is this was a recent Friday doubleheader, was down 24 versus the previous full season average. And again, they consistently went down as the season went on 2 years ago, or last year. Last year went down as the year went on, whereas this year, at least, it's staying around the same. But like 168K between combined on both isn't ideal. And the games on True TV by themselves are averaging somewhere along the lines of like 50, 60K, whereas last year, they were about 100. So what's happening now is that the TNT games, which are the marquee games, are averaging about what the True TV exclusive games were last year. And the True TV exclusive games were not averaging a lot last year. And we all remember that. We all remember how much of a shock it was when Angel Reese would be playing and there'd be 90,000 viewers. Because in Angel's defense, she is a draw. Like, anyone saying Angel Reese is not a draw, just looking at Unrivaled, it's one of those things. However, if you're seeing here where it's like, as interest in the league was further bolstered by the threat of a WNBA work stoppage. The week marked the first as WNBA first time they've met. But basically, they're projected to increase their revenue by 48 million, despite the fact that people aren't watching. So what does that mean? That they have, 240 million from 20 million. Is they're getting 20 million worth of sponsorships and advertising. Because there's a whole bunch of people that have advertising budgets that they're allowed put towards women's sports, and they're all putting it towards Unrivaled now instead of the WNBA because they don't know about a lockout. Because if you guys don't know, this is something Rachel Demita everyone wants to call Rachel Demita. Well, I'm not gonna say everyone. The Caitlin Clark haters want to call Rachel Demita just a grifter. First of all, she's worked in NBA media for a fucking decade, and second of all, she has been saying it since during the WNBA season that there are a lot of companies that are pumping money into Unrivaled because they don't know if there's going to be a WNBA season and they have advertising budget there. At the end of the day, if companies have leftover advertising budget, it goes somewhere. Plenty of places have just randomly got. If companies have advertising budget and they want to throw it somewhere, there's people that have massively overspent on advertisements in every field for that reason. But that's the thing, is that because of the threat, even just the threat of a lockout, got Unrivaled 20 million worth of extra worth of endorsements. Just purely the threat of a lockout did that. So what would an actual lockout and an actual work stoppage do? And the potential of the league going? It would greatly, greatly increase commercial revenue to Unrivaled. It would. It absolutely would. Anyone saying otherwise is crazy. Short term, I'm not saying that a WNBA will, getting rid of WNBA would help Unrivaled long term, or players that are playing in both leagues will make more money. But what I'm saying is that Unrivaled salary will be higher and Unrivaled revenue will be higher if the WNBA went bust. How much of a percentage do the people have an unrivaled that are negotiating the CBA? That's what this comes down to. Again, if it was a fraction of a percentage and it was one of those things where it's like almost irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, like then you're like it doesn't really make much of a difference. However, if it turns out that, I don't know, let's just say Fee and Stewie combine, they own, let's say 10%. Let's say they own 10% of Unrivaled each. They don't own 10% of Unrivaled each. Obviously, they don't own 10%. That being said, let's just say hypothetically, like, the conflict of interest then becomes so bad. Like, it becomes so bad if that's the percentage they own. It's not. I'm just putting that out there as a hypothetical, saying if they own 10%, because if they own any significant percent, the valuation increase in Unrivaled. Let's just say if Unrivaled 10x's and their stake in Unrivaled is 10 million, is worth 10 million. If they're able to sell off that stake, then that stake is worth more, will end up being worth more than any salary they can make in the WNBA. And again, I'm not saying they're negotiating bad faith. If anything, Breanna Steward seems to be the person talking fans off the ledge and being the most positive outcome, the most like we need to go and play, like of the two of them. Whereas Fee seems to be in the we don't give a fuck if we play. We have Unrivaled. There is two camps of Unrivaled players. That being said, like it is what it is. Like we have to be real here. We have to talk about this like it is, that Unrivaled benefits from there not being a WNBA. Short term. Long term, I don't think it does. First, like, I don't think there's any real scenario where Unrivaled is this huge league long term. Purely because, again, when WNBA teams start paying their players $1-2 million a year, like, they're going to put exclusivity clauses in their players' contracts. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen in this CBA. It will be there in the next CBA. Like, Unrivaled is not making it to the next CBA. It simply put is not making it to the next CBA. There is, especially because the next CBA, the players are probably going to get closer to the rev split they want. And you're probably looking at the max contracts, if things keep going up towards 5 million. Unrivaled, first of all, Unrivaled won't exist. Second of all, they won't allow players Unrivaled. Second of all, even if they do, there's going to be a situation where they could put Unrivaled out of business by making it written WNBA contracts that any injury sustained in an outside off-season league means your contract is void, which means Unrivaled players would then have to, or those Unrivaled would have to insure WNBA contracts, and they couldn't afford the insurance on 3, 4, 5 million W contracts. I think Unrivaled is going to struggle over the next couple of years for insurance reasons anyway, because they have insured every single player's contract in the WNBA. And if the cost, what it's going to cost to pay out the salaries, and then when it comes to the insurance as well, you're going to be sitting there trying to figure out, like, is it worth it insuring, let's just say, 15 players for 1.5 million when we're paying them 200k here, and if they get injured, like what the insurance cost is going to be then when the chance of injury is, it's sports, it's always somewhat high. So anyway, yeah, that's the video. See you guys.